Shabbat. So we have a lot to be grateful for that we will be able to express through our beautiful traditional prayers. So I'm going to pass this over to Cantor Aronoff, who maybe she'll warm us up with a little nananai, a little bit of a nigun, or she might just go straight into our Birkot HaShachar. It is Cantor's choice. Oh, I see a guitar. She's getting her guitar, meaning we're going to get some delightful melodies right now. So I'm not yet going to announce the page because maybe we'll have some prequels.
Maybe.
Although, you know what, you might as well, just if you're here on 103 for your Birchot Tashacha, and you can get ready to rise as Cantor Aronoff will give us the cue. But thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Happy prayers to one and all.
Okay, now I think I'm ready for Birchot HaShachar. I'll take this off for right now. On page, whatever it is, Rabbi Yarkin said, 103. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lasech vivina levchin ben yom uven laila. Baruch
Amen.
Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani b'tzalmo.
Amen.
Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani bat chorin.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani Yisrael.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivrim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, malbish arumim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokef kefufim.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, rokah haaretz al hamayim.
Amen.
Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamechin mitzadei gaver.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa li kol tzorki.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, mozer Yisrael bigvura.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, mozer Yisrael betifara.
Amen.
Eloheinu melech haolam, hanotein laya'ef koach. Baruch atah
Amen.
Olam ha'mavir she'ein ha'me'einainu ha'mi'afapai v'ratzon panach Adonai v'imotenu. Utneinu hayom v'chayom, l'cheinu l'chasru rachamim b'einecha, u'b'einei choloenu v'tigmelenu chasadim tovim. Baruch atah Adonai, gomel chasadim tovim, li'amo Yisrael.
Amen. You may be seated, and we continue with our Psalm for Shabbat, page 112, which is Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat.
Yom Yom Shabbat Kodesh, Shebo hayu haleviim omrim bebeit hamikdash, Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat, Tov lodot Adonai lezamel l'shimcha elyon. Oh, dinuvun b'seva, d'shenim v'rananim yiyu, להגיד כי אשר אדוני צורי ולא עוולת בו.
We continue with on page 120, Mizmor Shir Chanukat Habayit LeDavid.
מזמור שיר חנוכת הבית לדוד. ארמים חרייתי לילה וזלמה ואליער. זמר לנו חסיד עבודו זכר קודשו גילן. ותבנה הייתי נבחר. אליך אדוני אקרא ואל אדוני אתחנן. אליך אדוני אקרא ואל אדוני אתחנן. שמע אדוני בחונני, אדוני היה עוזר לי. שמע אדוני בחונני, אדוני היה עוזר לי. הפכת מספדי למחולי, פיתחת שקי ותעזרני שמחה, למען יזמרך כבוד ולא ידום. אדוני אלוהי לעולם מודך.
On the next page, we have Kaddish Yatom. So I invite all those who are saying this prayer to stand if they can and to recite after me. I'm on page 121, Kaddish Yatom. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'yalma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala uv'zman karif v'yimru. Amen. Yehi shmei rabbah mevarach Leolam ul'olmei olmaya. Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemei dekudsha, richu. La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran v'alma v'yimru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shamaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru, amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen.
Amen.
May you take comfort in their memories. Let's all rise if we can for the Baruch She'amar, page 122.
וקיים בנצח, ברוך מודה ומציל, ברוך שמו. לי 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 יא לי 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 יא לי לי יא לי 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 יא לי לי יחיד חי עולמי מלך משובח ומפואר עד שמו הגדול ברוך אתה אדוני melech me'olal batishmachot.
We take a seat now as we continue with Ashrei on page 136.
Ashrei yoshvei beitecha, od yalelucha sela. Ashrei ham shekach lo Hashem Adonai Elohav, tehila leDavid. Tehillah Adonai daber pi vivarech basar shem kodsho leolam va'ed v'anachnu nevarech ya me'atav yad olam. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah nafshi et Adonai. Ahalalana b'chayai azamar leloai be'odi. Al tivzechu b'nimah. Adonai shemer gerim yotam yamanai ye'oded derech rishayim ye'avet yimloch Adonai leolam Eloheich tzion ledor v'ador. Hallelujah. Rabbi Yarkin,
Hallelujah.
I would like to insert page 139 this morning. Is that okay with you? I get
With my blessing.
Okay.
Gosh, that was lovely. Who composed that?
I think that's a Nava Tehillah tune.
I need it. Please send me a recording so I can learn it because that was gorgeous. Again.
Yael and I have done it in harmony, so I'm looking forward to the day that when Yael and I can do it together again. Bimheira v'yamenu. Shall we continue?
I hope so too.
Shall we continue with 141? That is 141.
Exactly, it's Psalm 150 on page 141. It's our well-known Hallelujah, Kol Hanashama to Hallelujah. Anything, everything that can breathe, let's use that breath to praise.
And we'll use the nigun I used this morning. La 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 la. I na 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 na. La 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 la. I na 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 na. Oh, la 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 la. I la 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 la. Oh, na 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 na. ובברוך שם כבודו לעולם, וימלך כבודו את כל הארץ, אמן ואמן.
We continue with Nishmat Kol Chai, which is on my page 145.
נשמת כל חי, תברך את שמך אדוני אלוהינו, ורוח כל בשר תפארת.
Were our mouths filled with song as the sea, our tongues to sing endlessly like countless waves, our lips to offer limitless praise like the sky, our eyes to shine like the sun and the moon, our arms to spread heavenward like eagle's wings, and our feet swift as deer, we would still be unable to fully express our gratitude to you, Adonai, our God and God of our ancestors, or to praise your name for even one of the myriad moments of kindness with which you have blessed our ancestors and us.
כי כל פלך היודע וכל לשון לך תשבע וכל ברך לך תכרע וכל קומה לפניך תשתחווה וכל לבבות יראוך וכל קרב וכליות יזמרו לשמך כדבר שכתוב כל עצמותיי תאמרנה אדוני מי כמוך מציל אני מחזק ממנו ואני באביון מגוזלו מי ידמה לך ומי ישפה לך ומי ירוך לך האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא אל עליון קונה שמיים וארץ נהללך ונשבחך ונפארך ונברך את שם קודשך כאמור לדוד ברכי נפשי את אדוני וכל קרבי את שם קודשו.
On the next page, 147, we have Shochin Ad Marom.
שוכן עד מרום וקדוש שמו וכתוב רננו צדיקים באדוני לישרים נבע תהילה בפי ישרים תתהלל ודברי צדיקים תתברך ובלשון חסידים תתרומם ובקרב קדושים תתקדש ובמקלות רבבות עמך בית ישראל. שכן חובת כל היצורים, לפניך אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואימותינו, להודות, להלל, לשבח, לפאר, לרומם, להדר, לברך, להלל ולקלס, על כל דברי שירות, שירות ותשבחות דוד בן ישי עבדך משיחך, ישתבח שמך לעד מלכנו, האל המלך הגדול. ברכות והודעות מעתה ועד עולם, ברוך אתה אדוני, אל מלך גדול בתשבחות, אל ההודעות אדון הנפלאות, הבוחר בשירי זמרה, מלך מלכי העולמים, יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון ובימיכון ובחי כל בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב יאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבא מבורך לעולם וליומי עולמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילא מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמא ויאמרו amen.
The Baruch Hu, our official call to prayer, is on page 149. We rise if we can and we locate east if we know our directions.
And Rabbi Yarkin, you can fill in the part for the congregation for us. How's that?
It would be an honor.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach leolam va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uvarei choshech, עושה שלום וברא את הכל, הכל יודוך והכל ישבחוך והכל ימוגן. אין קרקך ואין זולתך, אפס בלתך ומי דומה לך. אין קרקך אדוני אלוהינו בעולם הזה, ואין זולתך מלכנו לחיי העולם הבא. אפס בלתך גואלנו לימות המשיח, ואין דומה לך מושיענו לתחיית המתים. Let me try it here.
We have El Adon now on page 151. We will praise heavens and the orbs.
I'm getting mixed up between tunes right now. I'm just going to try a different tune. I'll do a different one. Let me put it up here. I'll do it here. El Adon al kol ha'ma'asim, baruch u'vorach b'fi kol neshama, godlo v'tuvo malei olam, da'ad u'tvuna sovevim oto, ha'am yitkoe achayot al-kodesh, b'nedar v'chavot, al ha'merkava, zechut u'mishar, בבינה ובשכל, כוח וגבורה נתן בהם, להיות מושלים בקרב תבל, מלאים זיו ומפיקים נוגה, נועז זיום בכל העולם, שמחים בצאתם וששים בבואם, עושים ביים הרצון קונם, פאר וכבוד נותנים לשמו, צהלה ורינה לזכר מלכותו, קרא לשמש ויזרח אור, ראה והתקין צורת הלבנה, שבח נותנים לו כל צבא מרום, תפארת וגדולה, שרפים ויופנים וחיות הקודש, ילאי ללאי ללאי ילאי ללאי ילאי ללאי 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 ילאי ללאי ללאי ילאי ללאי ילאי ללאי ללאי לאל אשר שבת מכל המעשים, ביום השביעית עליו ויאמר מזמור שיר ליום השבת. תתברך מושיענו על שבח מעשה ידיך, ועל מראה אור שעשית יפרוך הסלע. תתברך צורנו מלכנו וגואלנו בורא קדושים, ישתבח שמו למלכנו יוצר משלים אשר וכולם פותחים את פיהם בקדושה ובטהרה, בשירה ובזמרה, ומברכים ומשבחים ומפארים ומריצים ומקדישים וממליכים את שם האל המלך הגדול הגיבור ונורא הקדוש הוא בכל המקבלים בהם המלכות שלו. להקדיש ליוצרם בנחת רוח, בשפה ברורה בנימה קדושה, כולם כאחד עונים ואומרים ביראה, קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוא כל הארץ כבודו, והאופנים וחיות הקודש ברעש גדול מן הסיב לעומת צרפים, לעומתם משבחים ואומרים ברוך כבר אדוני ממקומו, לאל ברוך נעימות ייתנו למלך לבקם זמינות של המחדש בטובו בכל יום תמיד מעשה בראשית. אור חדש על ציון תאיר, ונזכה כולנו מהרה לאורו. ברוך אתה אדוני יוצר המאורות, אהבה רבה אהבתנו. נביא אלוקים בכל מירת תורתך באהבה, והאר עינינו בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, ויחד לבבינו לאהבה וליראת שמך, ולא נבוש לעולם ועד, ולא נבוש לעולם ועד, כי בשם קודשך בארצנו, כי אל פועל ישועות אתה, ובנו בחרת מכל עם ולשון, וקרבתנו לשמך גדול סלע סלע, באמת להודות לך, ולייחדך ולייחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה.
Amen.
Oh. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol meodecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha ve'shinantam levanecha ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך והיה אם שמע ותשמע. If you care to join me on the third paragraph of 156, Vayomer Adonai el Moshe lemor daber el bnei Yisrael v'amarta alehem v'yasu lahem tzitzik al kanfei bigdeihem ledorotam v'natnu al tzitzik hakana petil techelet ve'aya lachem letzitzik וריתם אותו, וזכרתם את כל מצוות אדוני, ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטורו אחרי לבבכם, ואחרי עיניכם, אשר אתם זונים אחריהם, למען תזכרו, ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת. יציב לכם לקיים לשבת.
Emet indeed to those words. We're continuing on page 157.
לדור ודור הוא קיים ושמו קיים וחיסון נכון, ומלכותו ואמונתו לעד קיימת. על הראשונים אל האחרונים דבר טוב וקיים ולמה אין אמת. גואלנו גואל אבותינו ואמותינו יוצרנו צור ישועתנו פודנו מצילנו מעולם שמך אין אלוהים זולתך. עזרת אבותינו ואמותינו אתה הוא מעולם. מגינו משיח לבני המחנה. אשרי שישמע למצוותיך ותורתך דברך ישים על ליבו. אמן. Tilo le'el elyon, Baruch hu umvorach, Moshe u'Miriam u'bnei Yisrael lecha shira, v'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam. Yalai lalai lai yanai nanai nai, ai lalai lai lai lai, yalai lalai lai, ai lalai lai, lai nanai lai lai lai, ah, lai lalai lai lai yalai lalai, ai lalai lai 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 la la la, lai nanai lai 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 nanai, lai nanai lai lai lai. Mi chamocha bo'elim Adonai, mi kamocha neder b'kodesh, Nora tehilot osefele, shira chadasha shibechu geulim, leshimecha asfat hayam, yachad kulam hodu v'himlichu v'yamiru, Adonai yimloch le'olam bo'ed, yanai nanai nai, yanai nanai nai, ai lalai lai lai lai, oh, lai lalai lai lai, yanai lalai, yai lalai lai lai lai, oh, lai lalai lai lai, yanai lalai, lai lalai lai lai lai. Tzor Yisrael, Uma b'ezrat Yisrael, Uvtechinu mecha, Yehuda veYisrael, Go aleinu, Adonai tzvaot shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael.
We have our morning Amidah now at this time on page 159. We will pray the first few pages together out loud. Cantor Aronoff will lead us, and then we will continue the rest to ourselves. So, b'vakasha, Cantor Aronoff.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avoteinu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Agadol Hagibor ve'Anora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גואל לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ופוקד ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיים מתים אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומיתה מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים, נקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב היה נביאך וקרא זה אל זה ויאמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוא כל הארץ כבודו. אז בקול רעש גדול אדיר וחזק משמיעים קול מתנשאים לעומת שרפים לעומתם ברוך יאמרו ברוך כבוד אדוני מי מקומו נאי 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 Lai, 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 lai. ממקומך מלכנו תופיע ותמלוך עלינו כי מחכים אנחנו לך עוד מתי תמלוך בציון בקרוב בימינו לעולם ועד תשכון תתגדל ותתקדש בתוך ירושלים עירך לדור ודור לדור ודור ולנצח נצחים ועינינו תראינה מלכותך וכדבר האמור בשירי יוסף על ידי דוד משיח צדקך. ימלוך אדוני לעולם אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לימוש לעולם ועד כי המלך קדוש וקדוש אתה ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. Yikra v'yikra shemei Rabbah. Be'alma divrach yirutev yom lichmachutei b'chayachonu v'mechonu v'chaydochol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'bizman kariv yimeru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevorach. Le'olam le'omei omaya yitbarach. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpor v'yitruman v'yinaseh v'yidadar v'yidaleh v'yidalel shmei dekudesha. Brichu li'eh lamikol berchata v'shirata tushbchata v'nechamata damiran v'yamavi yimeru. Amen. Titkabel tzloton uvalton d'chol Yisrael kodam avuhandi v'shmaya v'yimeru. Amen. Yeh shlam rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'kol Yisrael v'yimeru. Amen. Ose shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'kol Yisrael v'kol yoshvei tevel v'yimeru. Amen.
Amen. Yesha Koach Kanta Aronoff for a gorgeous, tuneful shacharit there. It is now Torah time, and I do believe we have a Torah reader. It is none other than our own gracious Kanta Aronoff. And I think she even has a Torah for realsies. So she is going to set up. And it means we get to sing.
Down to my dining room, and now in my dining room table, I am going to put all of you right over here. I am going to stand over here. Oh, wait a minute. Let me adjust this a little bit. Let me see. Oh, hello.
Hello! Oh, a beautiful shot. So we'll also get to see you read Torah, which means we'll get to do some of our introductory Torah blessings as well. And I think we also still need a person or two to take an aliyah. So if you are watching us in Facebook land or on YouTube, and you would like an aliyah, I put the link into this Zoom meeting. You're welcome to hop onto Zoom and say, me, and we will give you an aliyah. Our first one is already taken. It is the wonderful Peter Reynolds. Oh, I see Joette logging on, meaning that she may well have the honor, the privilege of getting to have an aliyah, if she does indeed want one. And then we'll have one more, so maybe Joette can take number 2. I'm stealing Samara's job right now. She is my aliyah coordinator, so apologies for that. But either way, I am going to be on. I think we'll do Ein Kamocha, Kanta Aronoff, because we've got a Torah and we've got the real deal. So Ein Kamocha on page 168. And just so we feel the communal feeling here, if anyone, because we do have a bunch of people who are in the Zoom meeting, but they don't have their cameras on because they're like, oh, but I'm not doing anything. We love to see your face. So feel free just to flash your face at us, so we can feel just how many people are really here. So feel free to do that, and we will proceed after Kanta Aronoff.
Ein kamocha va'Elohim Adonai v'ein kemasecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim u'memshaltecha b'chol dor v'dor Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed Adonai oz li'amo yitain Adonai yevarech et amo b'shalom Avarachamim heitiva b'rtzonecha et Zion Tivne chomot Yerushalayim Tivne chomot Yerushalayim Ki becha levad batachnu Melech elam v'nisa Adon olamim. We're going to open the Aron now. Vayehi binso Aharon vayomer Moshe Kuma Adonai veyafutzu oivecha ve'yanusu mesanecha mipanecha ki mitzion tetzei Torah ki mitzion tetzei Torah udevar Adonai mi Yerushalayim Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah Le'amo Yisrael B'kedushato. Rabbi Yarkin, shall I just go on to Be'an Arachetz, or do you have anything you would wish to?
I think at this time, a Be'an Arachetz would really hit the spot. So proceed.
Be'an Arachetz Ve'lishme Kadisha Kadisha Yakira Ana Emar Tushbechan Be'an Arachetz Be'an Arachetz Ve'lishme Kadisha Kadisha Yakira Anai Maretush Bechan Yerava Kadamach Detiftach Libi Bioraita Vitashli Mishalin Velibi Veliba de Cholamach Yisrael Letav Lechayin Velishlam Amen. Okay, so you stand, wait a minute, you stand over here next to me. Let me put this down again.
We're working out the choreography as we go along.
Okay, here we go. Rabbi Yarkin, I nominate you to respond on behalf of the congregation, along with Mac, who's barking at the people walking outside with their dogs.
I humbly accept the honor.
Okay, Mac, basta.
Done.
Masfik. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Shema.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo.
Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo.
Adul Adonai Tiyune Ramema Shema Yachtav Lecha Adonai Hagidula Ve'agevura Ve'atiferet Ve'anetzach Ve'aod. Take off the cover. Kichol Bashamayim U'Ba'aretz Kichol Bashamayim U'Ba'aretz Lecha Adonai Hamamlacha V'Amid Na'aseh Lechol Rosh Ramimu Ramimu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'yishtachavu Ve'yishtachavu Lehadom Raglav Kadoshu Ramimu Ramimu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'yishtachavu Lehar Kodsho Ki Kadosh Adonai Eloheinu.
You did a beautiful job of choreographing that to both Aronoffs right there. So in a minute, we will have our first aliyah. And I'm just going to let you know a couple of things about our Torah portion. I'm going to lay my Torah on the table right here. We are going to be on page 176. You know who you are, who gave me that page number, so Toda Rabba. And we're just reading a snippet from the triennial section. And this little episode, it's Bereshit chapter 30. It's verses 14 to 24. It's when a bunch of children are being born. And we have the Rachel Leah fiasco here of who can give me children? I need them, I want them. And it is Reuven who steps in here and has this very interesting role. And I just want to draw our attention to a positive Reuven Midrash, because Reuven is our firstborn. He is the first fruit of Leah, our ancestor. And he often gets a very bad rap for not really stepping up for his part in the Joseph in the pit little story that's going to be a Torah reading in a few weeks. And there's also possibly some weird behavior that we're, again, not going to really go into. But there's a wonderful midrash that steps in here and imagines that the home of Lavan, where they're all living, Lavan is not a good provider. And these little children are starving. And Reuven goes out into the field when it is the wheat harvest and looks to bring food in. And he finds these odd mandrakes. They could be herbs or spices, we're not even sure, these dudaim. And he collects as many as he can. And the Midrash tells us that they are hefker. Weeds don't belong to the farmers. Hefker means they're just up for grabs. They're ownerless things that anyone is welcome to. And Reuven doesn't go into the wheat fields to take wheat or any other fruits or veggies which would belong to other people. He finds for free these herbs, these mandrakes, that no one else can say, oh, they're mine. So he takes these. Again, it's almost like a blessing from God, and he wants to give them to his mother. And the text says, he brought them to Leah. And the implication there is that he himself doesn't have them too. So even though he's imagined in this midrash as a hungry little boy, he says, no, I'm going to give them all to my mother. And it's this beautiful, generous thing that he does in this time. And again, the horribleness comes when Rachel and Leah start fighting over them because they were believed to have fertility properties, or maybe they helped you fall in love more deeply with Jacob, who they were fighting over. But I just love that this little midrash steps out and says Reuven does this beautiful deed whereby he doesn't steal food. And he does it to sustain the matriarch, who is then going to be able to go and have many more children. And that this was a lovely thing that Reuven did. So with that in mind, the idea of allowing abundance to come in when you don't take it from others, I think that's the message there. We're going to hear how that sounds in Hebrew. So Cantor Aronoff, if you want to let us know if you're ready and set up. And we'll take it away from there.
I am ready and
as
set.
I said.
Oh, I'm echoing. Hopefully that'll stop. Peter, did I hear that Peter is the first Aliyah?
Unmute.
Yes.
Peter is.
Can you remind me your name in the holy tongue?
Yaakov ben Meir Batya.
Okay. Yaakov ben Meir Batya. Vayazor v'yagin v'yoshil ha'chol ha'chosim bo v'nomar amen. Hakol avukod el Eloheinu tnu kavod laTorah yamod Yaakov ben Meir Batya Rishon Baruch shenatan Torah li'amo Yisrael b'kedushato ve'atem advekim b'Adonai Elohechem chaim kulachem hayom. You can pick this up. And just in case you want to reach your talis out, let me find my spot where I'm going to be beginning. By Elech Reuven, right? Yeah. Okay. You can throw it a kiss right there.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch ata Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayelech Reuven b'mei ketzir chitim. וימצא דודאים בשדה, ויבא אותם אליה עמו, ותאמר רחל אליה, תני נא לי מדודאי בנך, ותאמר לה, המעט קחתך את אישי, ולקחת גם את דודאי בני, ותאמר רחל, לכן ישכב עמך הלילה תחת דודאי בנך, ויבוא יעקב מן השדה בערב, ותצא לאה לקראתו, ותאמר אלי תבוא, כי שכרתיך בדודאי בני, וישכב עמה בלילה הוא.
ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת, וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, נותן התורה.
Amen. Who is our second aliyah?
Joette.
Oh my goodness, Nachum, Sarah. Okay, I got it. I knew it was a nun. Ta'amod Yehudit bat Nachum v'Sara l'aliyah hashniya.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Vayishma Elohim Elea Vatahar Vateled LeYaakov ben Chamishi. Vatomer Leah Natan Elohim Sechari Asher Natati Shivchati Leishi. Vatikra Shemo Yisachar. Vatahar od Leah Vateled ben Shishi LeYaakov. Vatomer Leah Zavadani Elohim Oti Zebeto Hapa'am Yisbaleni Ishi Ki aladati lo shisha banim Vatikra et Shemo Zebulun Ve'achar Yalda bat Vatikra et Shema Dina.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddush. Oh, excuse me. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Who would be our third aliyah? Anybody?
We thought that we would give the honor to Mel Aronoff, seeming as he could physically interact with the Torah scroll.
Okay, here, stand on this side. That's just where I'm used to the, okay, what do I do with my yod? Here it is. The Ole. Okay, what is it? Vayizkor. We're on verse 22. Not that it says so in the Torah. Dina, Vayizkor, right there.
Baruch Adonai Barach.
Baruch Adonai Barach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Barach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, natan lanu et torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Are we all okay here? Amen. Vayizkor Elohim et Rachel, vayishma eleha Elohim, vayiftach et rachma, vatahar vateled ben, vatomer asaf Elohim et cherpati, vatikra et shemo Yosef lemor, Yosef Adonai li ben acher.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Torah temet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Okay. Rabbi Yarkin, would you like
Yes.
to do a Misha Berach?
I would, and I would invite anyone who is watching on Facebook to add the name or names of all who could use some prayers for spiritual, physical, emotional recovery, to please add them in the comments. And let me ask everyone in the Zoom room in a moment when I go around and say the names, you can add the names as well, should you choose. That's what happens when you're in Zoom with us. So here is our prayer for healing. Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov ve'imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah Hu Yivarech v'Yirapeh et haholim. Anyone else? Any other names? Kanta Aronoff, do you have any names you'd like to add?
Raphael ben Sion Tzvi v'Nachai Rachel, Rasha bat Sarah, Yechezkel ben Tzvi.
Todah. The Tamar bat Miriam, Ethel bat Hannah, Chaim Shmuel ben Miriam, Shlomo Eliyahu Halevi ben Bluma, Ba'ed Dov Halevi ben Bluma, Zachariah Reuven Halevi ben Shoshana, Yenta bat Ruchel Hava Devora, Rachel Leah bat Frael Chaya, Sarah Devora Bracha bat Zipporah, Rachel Kia bat Rachel, Rita Hope Munson, Uri ben Fishel Ubatia, Julie Gordon, Zissel ben Goldie, Hanuch ben Cecilia, Lois Kaplan, Leah bat Basha, Eliyahu ben Golda, Malka bat Miriam, David Cohen, Rachel Smukla Finkelthal, Saul Helpan, Yitzchak Jagoda, Mordechai Moshe ben David Baruth, Dina bat Chaim, Miriam Deborah bat Yehudit, Gerardo Castillo, Joe Dichtman, Sarah Malka bat Rachel, Miriam bat Fisher Maya Ufegala, and all the other names that we're holding in our hearts at this time. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimaleh Rachamim Alehem, Lahachazikam Urapatam, Vayishlach Lachem Mehera Refuah Shlema Min Hashamayim, Refuat HaNefesh, Refuat HaGuf, V'toch Sha'ah HaCholim V'chazek Et Yedei HaOskim V'tzarchechem, Shabbat Hi Milizok Urefuah Krova Levo, Hashta Ba'gala Ubizman Kariv V'nomar. Amen.
I apologize for jumping the gun. We don't usually do it before we do Bizot Torah. I just reverted somehow. I think that's just the nature of how we all are.
It's all good. The Torah is still fresh off the press, and we've got God's full attention. So it's okay to say, here are the names, take care of them, and to tell the community even more so, as we are God's ears. Here are the people that we need to call after Shabbat and make sure they're okay. So it's all good.
Okay, shall we lift and tie the Torah?
I've got mine ready.
Okay. Actually, why don't you want to lift it, or you want to actually why don't you just go like this? V'zot haTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai beyad Moshe. Now you can lift it up. Yisrael kudsha berichu ve'yo. Right to the Adu Yisrael kudsha berichu ve'yo. Right tachatu Torah. Torah, hallelujah, hallelujah, Torah, hallelujah. There, it's halfway back in the Aron. It's still open enough for any Haftorah stuff to go on, and we'll cover it up after Haftorah, whatever we're going to do for Haftorah. But we can still look at it for a moment.
We feel its presence.
Okay, Rabbi Yarkin, I forgot to talk to you about the fact that there are two Haftorah options for today. There's an Ashkenazi option and a Sephardi option. And I don't know if you have anything to say, I mean, what you are going to say about either one of them, but I'll read from whichever one you want.
Ooh, dealer's choice, eh? Well, the one that I had been studying in advance of Shabbat was the one that is Hosea, never know how to pronounce his name. So I don't know if that is I think that might be the Ashkenazi tradition.
Actually, it's both. It's just from different parts of Hosea.
Right.
There's Ashkenazi and Sephardi, both.
But what I was focusing on a beautiful teaching by Rabbi Yitzi Horowitz, who pointed out that there's this fascinating line towards the end of this week's Haftarah that invokes the two different exiles of the Jewish people. They shall hasten like a bird from Egypt and like a dove from the land of Assyria. And again, this is a lovely thing talking about the eventual ingathering of the exiles, that birds always return home. And that's a beautiful image there. But why bother mentioning two types of exiles? Why would Hosea, invoke both Egypt and Assyria? And obviously he's preaching to people that understand Assyria, but knowing that this is going to stand true for a long time. This is where Rabbi Yitzi Horowitz's teaching is beautiful. For he says, well, actually, these were two very different types of exile. The first is an exile of plenty, and that's Assyria, where we were actually quite happy. There was abundance. We think back actually to that little Reuven Midrash. And when there's abundance and you lack nothing, your desire can actually take over, because you're overwhelmed with all the lovely things that you get, and your appetite can overtake you, and you end up descending into a kind of mental captivity. You forget what is holy and what is good, and you become energized with negativity. And that is symbolized by the Assyrian exile, where we enjoyed relative freedom. And then the other type of exile, obviously, is the exile of suffering, of poverty, where you feel stuck and constrained. And that's where Egypt comes in. For there, as you know, we were in servitude. So I love the idea that, we have in our Jewish tradition these two types of exiles, both the Assyrian one, which is an exile of abundance, when we've got too much that we even know what to do with, and we stop being able to be grateful and cherishing it, and we become greedy and lax. Or there's the other one of not enough, of nothing, of desolation, of complete constriction. And that both of these states are awful, and that we should try to liberate ourselves from both of them and find that balance, that I have enough, but not too much, and not enough, and that I can help others not be in exile of either type as well. So that's the teaching that really just stuck in my mind, I think especially due to Thanksgiving, the idea of having enough, and being grateful for what we have, and being grateful sometimes that we don't have too much. So that's the Haftarah that I was looking at. So if you can find that in the Hebrew, we've got it on page 189 in our Eitz Chaim, I believe.
Okay. 189.
194.
Yeah, 100 and, well, no. I believe those verses are on one that you were talking about. They shall flutter from Egypt like sparrows, from the land of Assyria like doves, and I will settle them in their homes, declares the Lord, right?
Yeah.
So that comes on 196, which is, the Haftorah for the Sephardim that starts on 195, the Amit Elohim, which typically is the one that we do, 2 points, I'm not going to chant the entire Haftorah, but I will chant the verses that come from this Haftorah from chapter 11. I'll start at the beginning, verse 7, and verse 11 is the verses that Rabbi Yarkin was referring to. That verse begins in the Hebrew, Yecherdu ketzipor mimitzrayim. So I'm just going to do the beginning of this Haftorah for today. Ve'amit Elohim limshuvati ve'el al yikra'uhu yachad lo yiromem ech etencha Ephraim amagenecha Yisrael ech etencha che'adma asimecha kitzvoyim nepach alai libi Yachad nichmeru nichumai lo esech aron api lo ashuv l'shachet Ephraim ki el anochi v'lo ish b'kirbecha kadosh v'lo avo be'ir acharei Adonai yelchu ke'argei yishad ki hu yishad v'yecherdu banim miyam. Here's the verse. Yecherdu chetzipor mimitzrayim ucheyona me'eretz Ashur v'hoshavetim al batehem ne'um Adonai. I'm not doing brachot. We're just a snippet, just a taste of the Haftorah.
Yesha Koach, that was a beautiful, beautiful taste. Toda Rabbah. I believe we now have an Ashrei coming up, but it is not just any old Ashrei. It is an Ashrei where we get to welcome a bar mitzvah boy. Almost. It's so close to Leo's bar mitzvah, we can taste it. And Leo is going to lead us in the Ashrei at this time. Cantor Aronoff, would you like to do the response, or would you like me to? Either way.
I will be very happy to respond to Leo, my student. So Leo, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Okay. Ashrei veitecha od yechavu chasema.
Ashrei ha'am shekacha lo, Ashrei ha'am sharonai Elohav.
Tehima veDavid, aromimcha Eloheicha melech, ve'avar hashimcha le'olam va'ed.
B'chol yom avarchecha, v'halel shimcha le'olam va'ed.
Gadol Adonai umhulal meod, u'idvato ein heker.
Dor ledor yishabach ma'asecha, u'gvurotecha yagidu.
Hadar kevod hodecha, ve'divrei niflotecha asiha.
Ve'ezuz nurotecha yomeru, u'gdulatcha asaprena.
Zecher aftucha yabiu, ve'titchat techa yeranenu.
Chanun v'rachum Adonai, erech apayim ugdol chesed.
Tov Adonai v'kol, v'rachamav al kol ma'asav.
Yoduch Adonai kol ma'asecha, v'chasidecha yevarchucha.
Kevod malchutecha yomeru, ugvuratecha yedaberu.
Lehodia livnei ha'adam gvurotav, u'chvod hadar malchuto.
Malchut malchut kol olamim, u'memshaltecha bechol dor vador.
Somech Adonai l'chol hanoflim, v'zokef l'chol ha'kfufim.
Einei kol elecha yesaberu, ve'ata noten lahem et zechron be'ito.
Poteach et yadecha, u'maspia l'chol chai ratzon.
Tzadik Adonai bechol derachav, v'chasid bechol ma'asav.
Karov Adonai l'chol korav, l'chol asher yikruhu be'emet.
Ratzon yere'av yaseh, ve'et shavatam yishma ve'yoshiem.
Shomer Adonai et kol oavav, v'et kol rishayim yashmid.
Tehivat Adonai yedever pi, v'yivarech kol basar shem kol shol elam va'ed. ואנחנו נברך יה מעתה ועד עולם. Hallelujah.
Yasher Koach Leo.
Yasha Koach, beautiful job. We can't wait to celebrate your bar mitzvah together next week and hear you do much more chanting for us. And we hope that eased you into it. So you just got a sense that your community loves you and is behind you, and it will be even less daunting next week. We could just see your gorgeous little poodle Percy in the background there. So this is a very dog-friendly shul, and I hope that he is invited to the bar mitzvah next week as well.
Yeah, thanks.
So Shabbat Shalom and Toda Rabah. It's time now to put the Torah away emotionally as well as physically. Kante Aronoff, I don't know if we just want to do a little goodbye Torah, give it a little squeeze. I know that it's already covered because then we actually get treated to some words of Torah momentarily.
So I think what we'll do is we'll just do Hallelujah and Eitz Chaim Hi. So wait a second. I want us all to be able to look at the Torah one more time before we put her away. Where is this? There it is. And
Hello, beautiful Torah. Yahalelu is on page 183.
Yahalelu et Shem Adonai, ki niskav Shemo levado, hodo al eretz v'shamayim, vayarem keren leyamo, tila lechol chasidav, livnei Yisrael am kirovo. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Eitz Chaim Hi lamachazikim ba v'tomcheha meyushar deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivotea Shalom Hashivenu Adonai Elecha benashuva Chadesh Chadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu
Thank you. Goodbye, Torah. I hope you have a good rest. It gives me so much joy now to introduce our Darshan giver this week. There are so many things about the pandemic life that are worse than pre-pandemic life. But one of the small few pleasures is the ability to have an Adat Ari community that reaches further than LA, further than California. It even incorporates New York and Alaska. We've got congregants sprinkled all over the place. And it meant that we were able to reach out to Marvin Lamas and say, honey bunny, would you like to give your thoughts on the Torah? Even though you're in New York. And he said, I would love to, because he is a congregant who moved to New York, but he still considers Adat his home. So we get to welcome you back, see your glorious face, and just say in advance, thank you so much for joining us. You must be starving because it's past your lunchtime right now.
Yes. Hello. Shabbat Shalom to everyone. So even though I've moved to New York, I still consider Adat to be my home. And, I miss seeing my fellow Adat Arielites. I hope I pronounced that correctly. So I'm happy to be giving today's drash on Parshat Vayetze. So I'd like to talk about something that is close and personal to my own experience. And if you've heard something similar in the past few weeks, I think we can consider this as a reminder. So in this Parshat, we really learned a great deal about the trials of our patriarch, Jacob. So, just to summarize, he left Beersheba, he set out to Haran, he went to be with his uncle Laban, to find a wife. There's a small detail about his brother wanting to kill him. for stealing his birthright and receiving his father's blessing. We know from Rashi that that Jacob was robbed by his nephew, so he literally had nothing, and he was essentially a dead man. Now we're talking about a person who, as the commentaries would say, was a person engaged in rigorous Torah study, and he's now on the run essentially. So on his way to Haran, we know that the sun, it's described that the sun set suddenly. He falls asleep in this unremarkable area, and he dreams of God, and he wakes up feeling reassured, and he goes on his way. Now we know, being good Jews, that we read in Parshat that Jacob will actually spend 20 years in Haran. He has a lot of trials ahead. He marries the wrong woman. He ends up essentially being a worker for the next 20 years. But at the end of it all, he's able to found, I would say, a very large family, a very significant one at that, and he comes home a very bit blessed. However, I would like to go back to how our patriarch felt when he was still on his way to Haran from Beersheba. Now, we can assume that he was probably anxious, lonely, and definitely a bit scared, and he was also a bit sad. And we know this because the commentaries say that he wept upon seeing his Rachel when he got to Haran. However, he was, luckily for him, he was given assurance by God, and no less. God assures him that he will guard Jacob wherever he goes, and I get the sense of wow, how lucky is our patriarch, who is going through really a very rough time in his life, and yet he gets an assurance by God, no less, that essentially, everything will be all right. I will guard over you, and you can go on your way. Now, I think that experience of receiving a reassurance is something we can all relate to, especially given the difficult circumstances that we all have gone through. So we just had Thanksgiving. For many of us, it was a very different Thanksgiving, and in fact, quite a number of us was forced to spend it alone, given the need to social distance and to preserve our own health. Now, I remember when all the COVID restrictions came in, there was a rage. People would schedule Zoom meetings, check up on friends, making sure we're all alive. Tiger King was a show that we were all talking about, but that only lasted for a few weeks, and then it died down, and it became, quite frankly, a very quiet and lonely time for many of us, especially for those of us who are living alone without large families. Now, our patriarch Jacob was lucky. He was assured by God, no less, that it will turn out that everything will be all right. But I wonder if everyone has felt that. So, as a personal experience, I live in New York in a very tiny studio where there's essentially nothing else to do but work, unless I want to risk going out and being infected. Now, I remember there were moments in the past few months where I felt very withdrawn mentally from everything. Like I was in my own shell, I wasn't doing anything. And then a friend of mine reached out and says, "Hey, I haven't seen you in a while. Let's do a socially distant compliant Shabbos with masks on." And essentially, my friend acted as my cheap and free counselor. And after that, I snapped out of it, and became re-engaged. And thankfully, it was the high holiday, so I was able to really reconnect with everyone. Now, looking back on this parshat, I think I try to see what is it we can learn from this, and that even our own patriarch Jacob needed reassurance, going through a very difficult time, that everything will turn out all right. And I think the idea is that we're not really supposed to do these journeys alone. That we're supposed to help people and seek out help if needed. Now I wonder, after going through the season of Thanksgiving, where we're being thankful for everything that we've had, an abundance of good, that maybe there should be, we should also take time to slow down and think, is there anyone else around us who probably could use a little bit of reassurance given this difficult time? So I think what a good idea after Shabbos is over is maybe go over our friends list, and see, is there a friend out there who I haven't seen yet, I haven't spoken to in a while, and just check up on him or her, make sure he or she is doing all right, because he or she may be going through a very difficult journey of their own, and you reaching out maybe just enough assurance that he needs to continue on his journey. Maybe it will not be enough for him to get completely, on the path. And as we know from this parshat, that Jacob had many more trials ahead of him and many more difficulties, but at least the assurance gave him enough strength to just at least continue on. And I think that's something that we can all do, and something that we can learn from this parshat, and hopefully in our own way, we can help our friend, find light and direction in darkness, as our patriarch did. So that Shabbat Shalom, and I really hope I will see everyone in person soon. Thank you.
Yesha Koach and Shabbat Shalom. Oh, Marvin, thank you so much. There are drushim that the Torah just flows through a person, and that was what just happened to you. And I hope everyone got to see that he wasn't just reading from a script. Maybe you had notes, but you were just really talking from the heart. You really looked at the Torah and said, this is what's actually relevant to me today. And we all could do with that message of reassurance that we're not alone. We can be the angel. We can ensure that we're not going through this even when we feel isolated and dark. So thank you so much. And I'm going to reach out to more people personally, because I know it's a really dark time right now. Yesha Koach, Shabbat Shalom. And it's just magical to hear your voice and see your face again, because you're such a regular, and we miss all our regulars, but we missed you a little bit more because of you being in New York. So Toda, thank you for joining us. Yesha Koach. Let's do a rousing Chatzi Kaddish now, and soar into our Musaf Amidah. The Chatzi Kaddish is on page 184, and then our Musaf Amidah is on 185. So I'm going to pass this back to our cantor, and big virtual hug to Marvin.
I just wanted to say thank you, Marvin, also, and it is great to see you, and more. Hope to see you more. Take care. And you did remind us of some very important things, so thank you.
Also, as Robert Sachs pointed out on Facebook, I missed a golden opportunity to say, live from New York. Should have done that.
I think my dogs are going to have to leave the room because there's more people walking outside. But still, I'm going to try to sing the Kaddish over the dogs or with them on page 184. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba Amen. Ve'almad yivrachirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uvyamechon ובחיי דרכו בית ישראל, בגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם, ויתנשא ויתהדר, ויתעלה ויתהלל. שמי דקודשה, שמי דקודשה, שמי דקודשה בריחו, שמי דקודשה, שמי דקודשה, שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה, ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן ביalma, ואימרו 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 אימרו אמן, ואימרו 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 אמן, ואימרו 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 אימרו אמן, ואימרו 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 אמן. worry about that, folks. But I think it'll be quieter now as we go on. Shall we continue on 185?
We shall. 185, a dog-free Amidah, but that's a sad type of Amidah. We love our fluffy friends.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elokei Avoteinu v'Imotenu Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot ve'Imahot, U'Mevi Goel Ibnei B'neihem, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ופוקד ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ופוקד שרה, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיים מתים אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי מתים ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומגדול מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי המתים. נעריצך ונקדישך, כסוד שיח צורכי קודש, המקדישים שמך בקודש, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה, ויאמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ כבודו, כבודו מלא עולם, משרתיו שואלים זה לזה, איה מקום כבודו, לעומתם ברוך יאמרו, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו הוא ייתן ברחמים, ויחונם המייחדים שמו ערב ובוקר בכל יום תמיד, פעמיים באהבה שמה אומרים, שמה ישראל אדוני אלוהינו אדוני אחד. הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו, והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו שנית לעיני כל חי, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ובדברי קודשך כתוב לאמור, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד, כי המלך גדול, כי המלך גדול, וקדוש אתה, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גואלך, ולנצח נצחים, ולנצח נצחים, קדושתך נקדיש. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. If you're still davening, please continue to do so, but I just feel like singing Yismachu today. So we'll do Yismachu before 180, before Kaddish. Yismachu is on page 189. Yismachu b'malechutecha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'koreh, oneg Shabbat. Yismachu b'malechutecha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'koreh, oneg Shabbat. Mekadeshei, mekadeshei shvi Shabbat, kulam yisbeu v'tangu mituvecha Shabbat. Yismechu b'malechutecha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'koreh, oneg Shabbat. Yismechu b'malechutecha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'koreh, oneg Shabbat. V'hashvi'i ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat, chemdat yamim oto karata, zecher l'maaseh b'reishit Shabbat. Yismechu b'malechutecha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'koreh, oneg Shabbat. Yismechu b'malechutecha, shomrei, 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 Shabbat v'koreh, oneg Shabbat. Just felt like a very happy Thanksgiving weekend-ish sort of thing to do.
It was delightful. I am thankful that you included Yismachu.
My pleasure. Yitkara v'yitkara shemei Rabbah, be'yom divrach yirutev yom lichmachu de b'chayachonu v'mechonu v'chaydacha b'ed Yisrael ba'agal avisman kari v'meru.
Amen. Yeheshmei Rabba Mevorach, Liolam Lo Me'almaya Yitbarach.
Yitbarach v'ishtabach v'yitpor v'yitruman v'yitnaseh v'yitagar v'yitalev v'yitalel shmei dekudisha.
Rihu.
Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiran v'yama v'yimeru.
Amen.
Kabel tzloton uvalton d'chol Yisrael kodam avuhani v'shmaya v'yimeru.
Amen.
Yehesh lamarabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'kol Yisrael v'yimeru.
Amen.
Ohoseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'kol Yisrael v'kol yoshvei tevel v'yimeru.
Amen. We have Ein Keloheinu now on page 204.
How about the Ladino version, which is on the side column on the left?
Non como muestro Dios. Yeah, that one. That's right. It's
Eloheinu, ein kadonenu, ein kemalkeinu, ein kemoshienu, non como nuestro Dios, non como nuestro Señor, non como nuestro Rey, non como nuestro Salvador. Mi Eloheinu, mi Adonenu, mi Chemalkeinu, mi Kemoshienu, quien como nuestro Dios, quien como nuestro Señor, quien como nuestro Rey, quien como nuestro Salvador. No del Eloheinu, no del Adonenu, no del Malkeinu, no del Moshienu, oremos a nuestro Dios, oremos a nuestro Señor, oremos a nuestro Rey, oremos a nuestro Salvador. Baruch Eloheinu, Baruch Adonenu, Baruch Malkeinu, Baruch Moshienu, bendito nuestro Dios, bendito nuestro Señor, bendito nuestro Rey, bendito nuestro Salvador. Atau Eloheinu, Atau Adonenu, Atau Malkeinu, Atau Moshienu, tú el nuestro Dios, tú el nuestro Señor, tú el nuestro Rey, tú el nuestro Salvador.
That was delightful. Thank you so much. The Ladino melody is always welcomed. We will rise if we can now for Aleinu, page 205.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי ארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל עמונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומשביקנו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום מהשבותה, אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא אלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ויעל הארץ מתחת עינו, דרכי נקה לך. כי המלכות שלך היא ולעולם תמלוך בכבוד, ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please take a seat unless you are saying the Kaddish Yatom and you are able to stand. We have reached the Mourner's Kaddish. I'm on page 207 and we just hold in our hearts and minds the names of all those who we are saying this prayer for. If you are on Facebook, feel free to add the names in the comments section at this time as we say together, Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shmei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, v'agala u'v'zman kariv v'yimru. Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'lolmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal Shmei d'kudsha rechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata de'amiran b'yalma v'yimru. Amen. Yehi Shlama Rabbah min Shamaya v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru. Amen. May their memories be a blessing for us. May we hold them in our hearts and may it be an inspiration for us to do good in the world, knowing that they can no longer do good. And just to acknowledge that sometimes it can be extra hard because at this time of year when there's celebrations, even though we can't always celebrate them to the extent that we can right now because of the pandemic, it's even tougher on those whose loved ones are not physically here at all. So we offer you strength and community. And with that, we want to acknowledge the community and say thank you, everyone for joining us in whatever way you could. It's lovely to see some faces on Zoom and to have communal and congregant aliyahs. Big yesher koach, and thank you again to Marvin for a beautiful, stirring Adat Ari there. It is just no mean feat to be able to do that over Zoom when you don't even have the warmth and energy in the room. Thank you for my husband on childcare. Brent Yarkin, well done. You've done a great job there. And the little Paul, who's just got up from a bit of a nap, so he's a bit moody. Thank you to Cantor Aronoff's dogs as well for doing counterpoint on some of the songs, the beautiful praying there, and to Cantor Aronoff for leading us through all of services and doing some Torah reading and Haftarah reading as well. Also to Samara Lewinson, who is the behind-the-scenes coordinator who helped get people online and just made things smoother. So thank you so much for all that you do. And Eliana also gave you some support, so thank you to that. We've got a couple of wonderful events coming up really because Hanukkah is on the horizon. I know that you're not always necessarily hearing Hanukkah songs when you go into the shops, but no, Hanukkah is upon us. And we are doing 8 nights of awesome at Adat Ari, whereby online there is something every single night. We'll have candle lighting and blessings, and then there'll be wonderful celebrations. There's magic shows. There are sing-alongs. There are Bible players coming to entertain us with comedy. There is some mixology later on for the adults. We've got trivia nights. We've got bingo. Did I say a magic show happening? There's stories. There's even Hanukkah Nuranana, which is the best word to say ever. So please know that there's going to be a lot of different wonderful ways to celebrate Hanukkah. So polish those menorahs, get your dreidels de-rusted. I don't know really how to make sure your dreidels are prepared, and just check out the information. I think Hanukkah is going to start on the 10th of December, so we can taste it. It's in the air. Anything else, Cantor Aronoff, that I am blanking on right now?
The only thing I would add, as I did last night, shop at the Women of Adat Hanukkah Boutique through Monday. I'm going to look again tomorrow and go shopping tomorrow. And so I encourage everyone to do the same. It's a great way to be safe, support the shul, and buy stuff that you might need or want, because want is okay too, and want also to give to people for Hanukkah or for any time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for remembering that. I love that we were able to just sustain it for the entire month of November, pretty much. So check out our website, Facebook page for all of the upcoming things that we do. And we're going to end with an Adon Olam on page 211. And if you want to get your Kiddush cups ready, feel free to do so, because we'll do a little Kiddush after Adon Olam.
So I'm going to start on 208 with a snippet of Ani Mizmirot, and then we're going to use the same tune for Adon Olam on 211. Okay.
I'll allow it.
Okay, so good. And so page 208 for the beginning of Ani Mizmirot. Ani Mizmirot v'shiri merog ki elecha nafshi tarog. Nafshi chemeda v'tzel yadecha lada'at kol rasodecha midei daberi b'chodecha homeli bi el dodecha al kein adaber b'cha nichbadot v'shimcha achabed v'shirei yedidot. Now we turn to 211 for Adon Olam. Adon Olam asher malach בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא, ואחרי ככלות הכל, לבדו ימלוך נורא, והוא היה והוא הווה, והוא יהיה בתפארה, והוא אחד ואין שני, להמשיל לו להכבירה, בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית, ולא העוז והמשרה, והוא אלי וחי גואלי, וצור חבלי בעת צרה, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי בים אקרא, בידו אפקיד רוחי, בעת אישן והעירה, ועם רוחי גביעתי, אדוני לי ולא אירא.
Please be upstanding. I did have the foresight to remove the grape juice before I gave the cup to El Porglet here. I'm just going to make the blessing, but then have wine a little bit later in the kitchen. So, Al Kain Berach Adonai et Yom HaShabbat Vaykodshehu Chaverai.
Chaim.
L'chaim, Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Amen. Shabbat Shalom, L'chaim. Happy rest of the Thanksgiving weekend. We loved getting to join you and have Shabbat together. Clink.
Shabbat Shalom.